you are.
You're good now.
All right, very good. Good afternoon, everybody. I call to order today's regular council meeting of the Township of Cavan Monaghan on this Monday, July 6th. The agenda is before us. We do have an addition to make to the agenda. Madam Clerk.
Just an addition to under general business to add a special council meeting on July the 20th.
Very good.
So 10.1.
Excellent. Okay. I lost my people. Okay, I can't see Kathy, but that's all right.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I will need approval of the agenda. So we need a mover. Kathy, I can't see you, so I'm going to go with Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Belch.
Yep.
Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. There is no closed session, so we will move right along into our delegation. So one moment while we bring in our delegation. Our delegation today, Troy Speck, County of Peterborough CIO, and J. Murray Jones, County of Peterborough Warden, with regard to the County Strategic Plan 2019 year-end update and 2020 objectives.
Mayor McFadden, I do not have them in as an attendee just yet.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to continue on, and I can let you know when they arrive. I did confirm that he had the link, but I don't see them here as of yet.
May I suggest that we just go through with the video, because I believe it's 10 minutes and that'll give them 10 minutes. If they're not there by the end of it, then we'll just continue on.
Okay.
All right. So in the absence of the warden and the CAO, we're going to watch the video that they have provided for Cavan Monaghan Council.
Hi, my name is Troy Speck, and I'm the CAO for the County of Peterborough. Today, I'd like to provide you with an overview of the county's 2019 accomplishments and our goals for 2020 as they relate to our strategic plan. Just as a reminder, these are the pillars of the county strategic plan: industry and business, communications, financial responsibility, infrastructure, organizational development, and housing. I'm going to take you through each of those pillars and tell you a little bit about what we were able to accomplish in 2019 and what some of our goals are for 2020. Under the heading of Industry and Business, in 2019, we worked with Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and Eastern Ontario Regional Network to obtain funding approvals for the Cell Gap project from the provincial and federal governments, $71 million each towards the total $213 million project. We were able to renegotiate the Memorandum of Understanding with Peterborough and the Kawarthas Economic Development, or PKED, which establishes them as the economic development agency for both the county and the city. We were also able to renegotiate the Consolidated Municipal Services Management, or CMSM, agreement with the city. This agreement lays out the agreement for sharing and cost recovery regarding services such as paramedics, social services, housing, and Provincial Events Act administration. Toward the end of 2019, our Community Economic Development Initiative, or CEDI, with local First Nations, resulted in the signing and celebration of a friendship accord between the county, local townships, and First Nations. As for our 2020 objectives in industry and business, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to put some other things on the back burner, and you will see that as a constant theme through this presentation. For business and industry, we're working with PKED to support and manage efforts in response to the pandemic, including participation on the Warden and Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force, developing immediate, midterm, and long-term recovery plans. We will be continuing to work on the county OP, including completing the required land needs assessment. The PKED board has identified the need to explore a regional employment land study or strategy. And we will continue to support the Eastern Ontario Regional Network's Cell Gap project through purchase of county services such as procurement and GIS support. Under the communications pillar, in 2019, accomplishments included various successful communication campaigns developed and rolled out, such as the James A. Gifford Causeway communications strategy, the Is Your Urgency an Emergency 911 campaign, and the creation of county connection videos that introduced viewers to 22 activities carried on by the county. And again, the SETI Friendship Accord was signed. As for our 2020 communications objectives, again, we find ourselves managing extensive communications required in response to COVID-19. We plan to develop and present a new communications strategy. We will continue creating county connection videos to share via our online platforms. And we plan to finalize the bush country signage policy. Under the financial responsibility pillar, in 2019, we were able to finalize the 2019 budget and prepare for 2020's budget. We've now entered into IT managed service agreements with 3 townships. We finalized a new procurement policy and documentation. And we were successful with our funding application to cover the cost of a municipal modernization program, which will include components such as a service delivery and org review, IT and GIS master plan, and an IT business continuity plan. Last, I will point out that in 2019, Lang Pioneer Village had near record attendance and revenues. Objectives for financial responsibility in 2020 include managing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. As we know, it has already impacted our expenditure side in areas such as paramedics, and anticipate it will as well in areas such as the joint services shared with the City of Peterborough. I mentioned earlier the funding received for the service delivery and org review and other municipal modernization programs, and that work started with our consultant MNP. Some of you have already been involved in interviews, and the final report and recommendations will come forward this summer. We hope to develop funding and engagement strategies for the asset management plan that was presented to County Council last year. And we anticipate we will still have to be in a position to understand and manage changes resulting from provincial reviews and legislative change. You may recall that earlier in the year, pre-COVID, the province had announced coming changes to services such as paramedics and public health. Those review efforts have been put on hold by the province due to the pandemic, but we expect they will continue to move forward with them eventually. Under the infrastructure pillar, 2019 accomplishments included commencing work on the Gifford Causeway project, and there's some shots of that work there. The Gannon's Narrows Bridge was completed. We kicked off the start of our transportation master plan development. And we completed a number of facilities energy retrofits. Our infrastructure objectives in 2020 include completing the IT and GIS master and business continuity plans, continuing work on the transportation master plan, and completing various infrastructure projects. Under the organizational development pillar, in 2019, we developed a new county strategic and operational plan for the period 2019 to 2022, which forms the basis of today's report. We appointed a new Director of Infrastructure, Grant Murphy, and a new Director of Human Resources, Mary Spence. We hosted an all-staff meeting where we updated staff on the status of corporate projects, reinforced important corporate messaging, and gathered and analyzed employee responses to 8 key questions, which will be used to develop improved internal communications and departmental relationships. In 2020, our objectives are to manage the organizational impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, manage changes resulting from provincial reviews and legislative changes, and complete the service delivery and organizational review. Under the housing pillar, in 2019, again, we renegotiated the CMSM agreement with the city, which sees the city as the housing services provider for the county. We coordinated the city's contribution to the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus research and lobbying efforts and the development of an EOWC white paper on housing. And Peterborough Renovates assisted 11 homeowners and households in the county. Housing objectives for 2020 include presenting the EOWC white paper titled Enhancing Affordability in Eastern Ontario to ministers and opposition of the provincial government at the 2020 Roma Conference. The city will be working with Millbrook Manor to extend operating agreement for 24 affordable seniors housing units. And the 10-year housing and homelessness plan sets 2020-2021 targets for housing needs in the county. And you'll see those targets up there on the slide. That's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, Madam Clerk, do we have Warden Jones or Mr. Speck available?
Unfortunately, they have not arrived.
Okay, so for now, we'll just receive that video. And if they do arrive, we'll certainly revert back. Okay, so I got a motion then to receive that. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Is still on mute.
Yes.
thank you. Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is the minutes of the regular council meeting held June 15th, 2020. A motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Councillor Huntley and Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is passed. Next item is the minutes of the Middle Valley Trails meeting held June 22nd, 2020. Unless there's questions, I'll have a motion for those minutes. Motion. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. And our next item is reports 9.1, report finance 2020-16, use of cannabis legalization implementation funds. Ms. Pope.
Thank you. Council, I have before you this report, which includes a couple of recommendations. That council would support the hiring of a consultant to utilize the funds from the Ontario Cannabis Legalization Reserve to review the current zoning bylaw and official plan amendment policies and develop the appropriate policy planning tools and amendments. Recommendation number 2, the council would support the use of any remaining Ontario Cannabis Legalization Reserve funds to promote marketing and the economic development opportunities within our municipality moving forward. And that council would provide the clerk direction to draft a letter to the city of Peterborough in response to the correspondence received, requesting that a portion of the OCLIF funds be provided to the Peterborough Police Services.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Graham?
Thanks, and through you, Mayor. Just a clarification. I just want to get an understanding that the hiring of the consultant, the expectation is that the cost of said consultant will be less than the total of the $319.
Yes, through you, Councillor Graham, to council, that is the anticipation at this time. However, This is permission to move forward and begin to do that review. And if additional funds were required above and beyond what our budget would have or these funds, and there'd be a further report back to council.
Very good. Thank
Very
you.
good. Further questions? Councillor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, to Ms. Pope. I'm curious, the third recommendation that we draft a letter to Peterborough with response to correspondence. What's in the draft? Are we drafting the letter saying that these are what we're doing with the funds?
No, I believe in the actual report that the clerk had brought forward, council requested to wait until you receive this report as to what we were going to do with the funds, because their initial letter asked for some of those funds. And basically that council's motion, which was to delay the response before responding, that staff would prepare a report to council on the potential utilization of the funds before responding to the request from the Peterborough Police Services. So we're going back to the clerk's report where she was initially asking about responding. There really won't be any funds left over to provide to them. And so it's to respond, and perhaps maybe the clerk would like to speak to this particular aspect as well.
Madam Clerk.
I think we're just looking for some direction at this point as to whether or not council wants to provide any of that funding to Peterborough, or based on this report, whether the funding will be utilized entirely in Cavan-Monaghan. So it would just be some direction on that letter as far as any allocation going to Peterborough or not, and we'll respond accordingly.
Okay, so it was, sorry, through you, Chair, then it was more or less an open recommendation depending on what the decision is for the first two recommendations.
Correct. Further questions?
Mayor,
Councillor Belch.
yes, just out of interest, at present, is it just Peterborough, the city of Peterborough, and Selwyn that have moved forward, basically wanting to set up cannabis operations in their municipalities?
Sorry, just for clarity, are you referring to retail specifically?
Well, yeah, that my understanding is that the province is providing monies, I suppose, for a consultant to say what if any activity Cavan-Monaghan would take part in. Is that not the case?
Staff member want to take that?
I had, sorry,
Right.
through
Ms.
Councillor
Pope, yeah.
Belch.
Yeah,
Through council. The attachment that I had provided in the report is just giving you a summary of where the funds to date that the local municipalities received and how they've chosen to spend it to represent the municipality. It wasn't necessarily in conjunction with how many retail operations were open or not within their communities. But you're right that the Selwyn Township did hire a consultant with some of their fees to review the impact of planning policies as it relates to those activities. Okay. This report doesn't provide the economic development side of things and what is open or not in the local communities. It was more just how the local municipalities were using the funds towards how cannabis was impacting them.
okay.
Councillor Belch.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, it seems just to, for me at any rate, that I'm still feeling like a little bit in the dark as to what we're wanting to do. There hasn't been.
Go ahead. Continue.
Through you,
Mayor
Mayor.
Graham.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Belch. So the intention of the funds was really to cover the costs of anything incurred from a planning standpoint to a bylaw enforcement to literally anything municipal for the decision that we made as a council some time ago to opt into the potential for consideration for retail. I think the main guise was the consideration to be open for retail, but the retail component wasn't necessarily the purpose for the funds to be pursued. What we're attempting to do, in my understanding of the report, is simply hire the consultant to explore the various opportunities that cannabis can provide the municipality be they from a retail, from a potential agricultural, you name it. It's however, but without the bylaws in place, which is kind of what this consultant will consult with us and help us guide, as has been done in Selwyn, is provide that holistic oversight specifying to the cannabis industry and tell us how we may or may not benefit from adjustments or bylaws regulating therein. So it's the proposal is just to use to ask the consultant with the specialization understanding of the cannabis industry to provide guidance to the municipality as to how we can structure ourselves to potentially benefit from either retail or any sort of participation in the industry as a whole. But also establish the bylaws that they allude to after the consultant fees will then have a cost to generate the bylaws or adjustments to bylaws that can recognize this new sort of industry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further question, Councillor Moore? Yes.
Through you, Chair, just, is there a time frame on this? Like, is this going to take 3 months, 2 months, or is there a suggested length of time that we would get a response back from the consultant?
Excellent question, Councillor Moore. Actually leads into my next question, which was going to be directed at Mr. Conley. Obviously, if we take this and do an RFP and then have to go through not only the RFP process, but also selecting a consultant, that's certainly going to add time onto this process. There is another consultant that has, in my opinion, done a fantastic job for another municipality within the county of Peterborough. They've already dealt with the lower tier municipality. They've also dealt with the county of Peterborough because it affects the official plan at the county level. If we opt to sole source with a company that's already done this, the process would certainly take less time. But I will let Mr. Conley speak specifically to that item. And before Mr. Conley speaks, welcome, Mr. Conley. This is your first council meeting. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. So through you, your worship, to the rest of council. So the idea here is, again, as we've sort of been talking around it through council, through various conversations and questions, is that we would look at capitalizing on some of the knowledge already there by this consultant, the work they've already done for Peterborough County. So they know that, they do know the business, they do know some of the things that are there. I'll remind council that we do already permit cannabis operations, but specifically within commercial industrial zoning. And so the policy, the official plan policy and the zoning that we have in place is more or less a snapshot in time of what was at one point the evolving legislative framework out there. What we've seen is other jurisdictions have provided different sort of interpretations, and what we want to do is bring that to a more contemporary view. For the Education and Council, we've had a number of different inquiries from potential operators, cultivation, a number of different aspects, looking at opportunities within Cavan Monaghan, and we want to be able to capitalize on those, at least make sure that there's a planning framework that is conducive to that business opportunity. So getting back to what the mayor had asked is we would look, I actually will have a conversation based on what council's direction is today and what your approval is, use that as a basis to have a discussion. Again, making sure that we are consistent with any kind of sole sourcing, make sure that that's done and that process is respected. That be the kind of conversation. And getting to what you were asking before, Councillor Moore, I think the idea is based on your direction, I think the hope would be to have something in place by the end of this year, but with the idea of more optimally, something within the next 3 to 4 months is the time frame I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Very good. And so I question, I don't know whether it would be to finance or whether it would be back to Mr. Conley. If we were to take the advice of doing a sole source on this particular item with regards to the consultant that has also been engaged in another municipality in Peterborough County, what would be the addition to the recommendations in order to accomplish that, or what would you suggest?
Through you, Mayor, to the rest of council, I would suggest that you just mention in the motion that you would approve sole sourcing with a particular consultant that was used by the other municipality so that we could go forward. The conditions, it does meet the conditions of working with another local municipality and saving time and funding as well. So it would work within our purchasing bylaw, but just to add that to the motion as well when it's passed today.
Okay. In light of that conversation, I guess back to the rest of council, any questions, concerns with that modification to the recommendation? Certainly open for discussion. None?
No.
Okay. All right. So in light of that, I believe we've got a council that's very supportive of the recommendations that are before us, with the addition then to proceed with an opportunity to sole source this to Meridian Planning, who provided those services to Selwyn. And unless you want any specific variation on that, either to Madam Clerk or Ms. Pope, that would be the motion. But I'd look to them for direction if you want any clarity.
Mr. Mayor, I could just suggest in your first recommendation, it indicates that council support the hiring of a consultant. We could just place that wording in there that council supports sole sourcing Meridian to proceed with utilizing funds from the Ontario, and use that same wording from that same motion.
Okay, very good. Ms. Pope?
Also, just to add to that, if the procurement qualifies as a single source or a sole source, so let's just put in there non-competitive purchasing as per our bylaw under 5.6, and that way it covers both aspects.
Okay, actually, so within the motion, we'll just leave it as a sole source without the particular name to provide you an opportunity.
Perfect.
Sorry, Mayor, just because the definition of sole source is it's available from only one supplier. That's the reason why I was requesting single source to be included, because I believe there is more than one, but we would want to single source for this particular purpose because of the valid reasons that were expressed. Okay.
All right, very good. Any further questions from members of council? Then we have the modified recommendation, the additional point.
Just a quick question, Mayor. Where is Meridian out of? Where are they located?
You know what? I think we're going to have to leave that one with staff to coordinate, because they haven't even contacted them yet at this point.
Okay.
So we'll leave that. We'll just leave it as a single source. Obviously, we'll leave that with them operationally. Okay. Mover, seconder. Deputy Mayor Graham, Councillor Moore, Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Very good. Now we will go back to our questions for the warden and the CAO. So if we can go back there, we're going to let them in from the lobby.
And Mr. Speck should be with us now.
I think the warden is having trouble finding the link to the meeting. I don't know if anybody's able to send that to him.
I can certainly try.
Yeah. But anyhow, apologies. We had it in our calendar at 1:30, so I'm sorry we missed the video, but I'm glad you got a chance to view it, and tried to keep it under the 10-minute timeline for delegation. So hopefully it was informative and timely.
Excellent, very good. Yeah, not a problem. We proceeded on with the next item, so we've just come back. So is there any members of council for questions at this point for the CAO, Mr. Speck? Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Troy, thanks for joining us today, and appreciate the presentation. I thought that, there's definitely been some great achievements at the county, and I think, specifically with regards to the creative outreach and, improving our transparency with the videos and whatnot. I mean, that's a huge obstacle, and I think it's been well received and well done. So I just wanted to provide kudos to that specific nature. With regards to the GIS and IT and the infrastructure master plans, they mentioned that we're trying to complete those by end of year. Is that something that we expect to be able to do, given the COVID and the other, systematic delays therein?
So the council will be, county council will be receiving the report from MNP this coming Wednesday, 2 days from now, on the IT and GIS plan, the organizational service and service delivery review, and the capital project planning piece. So it's got a number of recommendations in it. The report includes timelines and timeframes for those items to be completed in. And so we've got a whole raft of items that are set to be completed in 2021 and in years beyond.
Very good. Further questions?
I have a question, Scott.
Councillor Belch.
Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Speck. Just wondering if there's anything as far as new projects that would include putting in a new pipe to the airport.
Are you talking about extending services to the airport, or?
Well, the present servicing that goes to the airport, the pipeline's a little small, and there's been talk for years that they need to put in a bigger pipe. I'm just wondering if it's come to any discussions with regards to that.
No, it hasn't. I can honestly say that's not something that's been brought to my attention or been raised with me in any discussions at this point.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions from members of council? Do we have the warden on the line yet?
Unfortunately, I don't see him. I was able to send out the email with the link on it again, but I don't see that he's arrived.
All right, very good. Well, if other members of council have any questions for the warden, I'm certain Deputy Mayor Graham and myself will ask them on their behalf next time we see him. Okay, with that, first off, thank you very much, Mr. Speck, for presenting before us today and answering the questions. I will take a motion then to receive. Do you want a second motion? How's that work? We already got a motion for the presentation. Take just a motion to receive that verbal, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's okay. We don't need another motion.
We don't need
We'll
another
just do the
motion.
presentation.
All right, we motioned you out. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Speck. And with that, we will move on then.
Thank you for having me. And hopefully next time I'll be able to actually be there.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay.
It all worked out. All right,
Take
thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Our next item is 9.2, Report Public Works 2020-15 Contract Extension, Withers Waste Management.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, before you and council is a recommendation that council approve the extension of the curbside solid waste collection contract with 2337700 Ontario Limited, operating as Withers Waste Management for additional 2 years as per the original tender, for the amount of $201,201,102.84 plus HST in the amount of $26,143.36 for a total amount of $227,246.20. The total tender amount with the HST rebate will be $204,642.25. And just a couple of comments. When we tendered the project and Withers was approved in 2017, we did carry in that tender 2 one-year extensions. So we're opting to have those approved at this council meeting. We've also noted in the report that we will be reporting separately on the pilot program and on the organic waste program that we have to date. So that will be coming forward to the August 4th council meeting. And just on a financial summary, under the financial impact, we've noted that the actual budget for 2020 is a total of $184,100. And this is reflective of one, certainly cost savings that we've had in our programs over the 3 years. And I think we have, as noted, increased revenues at the transfer station. So there's a number of things at work here that have amounted to a savings, and that is reflected not only going forward, but also in the past 3 years. So that's for your information. The recommendation is before you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Questions from members of council?
Mr. Huntley.
Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little confused by the way the numbers flow on this one, and you'll have to forgive me on this one, Wayne, but You're asking for a total tender of the 204, which was the contracted amount. And when I look down at the contract itself, it's contracted per site, right? Per stop, the $1.39 per stop or $1.25 per stop, depending on the type of stop it is.
Yes, that's right.
Which takes the money out. But the estimated number of stops, has got to have changed over the last 3 years and will continue to change over the next few years. Even though the number is flat in their Schedule A at the 227 per year, which is all well and good. And then when you go back up into Section 5 of the document, it says that we'll pay Withers according to Schedule A, which is a per stop billing. Yet you're getting billed by what their invoice is coming from the Bensville website, or the landfill site. So there seems to be a real disconnect on how they charge and how we get billed in terms of the contracting of this one.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Huntley, first of all, there is, in the tender, we had an estimated number of stops in each of the wards, and that was the basis of the tender prices at that time. We do have movement on those number of stops because of people wanting to use the transfer station versus curbside. So there is some movement back and forth where they elect to either go to curbside or go otherwise. And secondly, we do have some increases that are reflected in, of course, the Tower Hill development and any other new developments in town. We've been able to absorb those into the overall budget as we've gone through each year up to this year and hopefully again this year. We are billed on with Withers on each ward, we're billed on a per stop basis. So they mark the number of stops and they're paid per stop, and that's the basis that we pay them. And as I say, we will have fluctuations depending on the number of people that may use the service or not. We also pay them per bin pickup at the transfer station. So that's on what's referred to as bin lifts. And we've had a significant reduction in those at the transfer station. And then, of course, we have the leaf and yard waste that we pay them per stop on. So when we do receive our bills, it is reflective of the number of stops that they're doing on that weekly basis. And that is, they bill us per ward. And they include the total number of stops on each invoice. So hopefully that clarifies.
It does in a sense, but I'm curious on why we wouldn't update the contract then if we're going to re-enter it to kind of properly reflect what that number of stops is, because you're saying you're budgeting for a certain amount of money, yet you're asking for another.
Well, the tender was approved in 2017, and as noted in the agreement or the copy you have, their prices over the 5 years did change. So when we approved them on the basis of an estimated number of stops, and that has been refined over the 3 years. But in order for us to extend the contract for the 2 years, I have to go back to the original contract price and extend that, even though the budget amount or the amount we will be paying will be less. So I'm basing it on a tender called in 2017 with a clause in it that had 2 one-year extensions. So I'm allowed to do that, but the amount that we will be paying will be less than in the tender amount.
Yeah, it's a good news. Absolutely. It's just the mechanics of the contract seem to flow kind of strangely. But I guess the other component of the contract that we don't see is, if we're reducing down to a single bag and the estimate's based on a 2-bag stop, how do we reflect that coming back?
Well, the issue of going to a single bag, I think that's a matter that we'll have to report to council on, and that will become an item that if we're into the middle, we only have two years with Withers in this extension. So if we're looking at a single bag, then we will reflect that, and then we can negotiate that with Withers as one option, or we have the ability to move to a waste proposal call at that point too. The issue of the clear bags, we're just still getting some results on that. That was just implemented last year. And we're still trying to understand where all the waste items are going. There's, I think, changes happening in the recycling industry. So lots of things are happening out there, and we don't necessarily know where the provincial government's going quite yet, along with the different programs. So The issue of one bag versus two bags is a bylaw change that we would come back to council on.
Okay, so but it's not reflected in this agreement at this point.
No, this is for two bags. Yes.
Further questions?
So final question.
Councillor Huntley, we have another question.
Sorry about that, Mayor, but
All good.
so if we sign this at the current rates for the next 2 years, what provision do we have to reopen this contract with Withers if we move to a single bag? I believe it's January 1st, right?
We have the ability to negotiate, or we have a termination clause in the contract. So we have the ability that we can also terminate with notice and basically call a new proposal.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Good point, Councillor Huntley. Any further questions from members of council? Seeing none, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Councillor Huntley and Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Very good. Next item on the agenda, 9.3, report corporate services 2020-13, dog control bylaw update. Ms. Arthurs.
So the recommendation is that the cabinet. Oh, are we doing
We skipped one, Scott.
committee
I?
of adjustment?
Committee of Adjustment.
Oh, mine, I got it.
Oh.
The appointments.
9.3 on mine is the dog control. Okay, all right. I'll look at yours. So next up, Madam Clerk, what's the next topic?
Committee of Adjustments. So the recommendation is that the Cabinet-Monaghan Committee of Adjustment terms of reference on bylaw number 2020-34, being a bylaw to appoint members to a committee of adjustment, be approved.
Very good. Well done, Madam Clerk. Questions from members of council? No. Motion to receive the report and accept the recommendation by Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
and Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Madam Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
Next would be your dog control bylaw update.
Now it's our dog control bylaw. Very good. Excellent. We will go back to the dog control bylaw.
The recommendation is that council adopt bylaw number 2020-36, being a bylaw to provide for the licensing and registration of dogs and for prohibiting it or regulating the running of dogs at large.
Very good. Questions from members of council? Councillor Moore.
yes. I've had a couple of phone calls from ratepayers that are curious about what changes are actually being made compared to the old bylaw, because in their opinion, they think that the bylaw is being adjusted to accommodate the people in town as opposed to the rural people.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Moore. I'm not sure if you're speaking specifically to the number of dogs. There was a change made there.
No, it was the running at large. I think they misunderstood. I say they can still run on their own property. They seem to think that they're going to be picked up if they're almost anywhere.
Through you,
I-
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Moore, absolutely, they are able to run on their own property. That is not a problem. It's just if they are off their property without permission.
So it's basically the same as it was.
Yes. We've put in some additional charges in the event that we do have dogs off of their own property, but there is no changes as far as being able to be on their own property.
And the other problem was that their tags, they say they have trouble keeping their tags on them. I don't understand what they can do to fix that. Nothing, I don't think, but that was another complaint.
What's the issue with the, I guess, Councillor Moore, what's the issue with the tag?
Apparently the tags don't stay on the collars. I
I
don't know
have
if
I have a dog collar, it still has the tag on it. It literally just clips in.
I understand that. I'm just relaying my messages here. That's the.
Madam Clerk, has there been anything relative to the dog tags issue?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do ask in the bylaw that they keep the tag affixed to the dog. We did move to a lifetime tag a number of years ago, which is a far more durable tag and a more durable clip. So that shouldn't be an issue. But if they're having an issue, there is a replacement dog fee or dog tag fee of $5, but we haven't had a lot of complaints about people not being able to keep the tags on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions from members of council? None? Okay, motion then to receive the report and accept the recommendation. Deputy Mayor Graham and Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. Just so I'm clear, is there just the report CAO, report and capital project status, the council committee verbal reports, and the additional item? Is that all that's left on reports, or am I missing something?
No, that is correct. That's all that's left.
Correct. Okay, we will move ahead then to the report and capital project status. Ms. Hurley?
Yes, good afternoon, Council. The report is before you. If you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer any questions with regards to the report.
Very good. Questions from members of council? None. Is there any sort of update on that second item, Ms. Arthur's off-road vehicle route from the Victoria Rail Trail to the Ganaraska event to the Ganaraska report? I know it's for September 2020, but is there any update from either City of Kawartha Lakes or the province?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this time, I have followed up with the City of Kawartha Lakes, but they did take a bit of a break with their council meetings during COVID. So unfortunately, the item had not been dealt with yet, and I'm still waiting for some response back from the City of Kawartha Lakes. I did get some comments back from MTO with regard to crossing over the 115. That does not seem to be a problem, but pending the information from Kawartha Lakes, we've pushed it off to September.
Okay, very good. So at this point, it's literally just the Kawartha Lakes we're waiting for.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from members of council? Okay, seeing none then, a motion to receive that report. Councillor Belch and Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
yes,
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, and motion is carried. We're such an agreeable council today. That's a lot of unanimouses in a row. Council committee verbal reports. We'll just go around. I don't know how many committee meetings there have been held. Councillor Moore?
yes, just the library board, they just want to let you know that their curbside pickup is going well with members are increasing weekly. They've been approved for the G Suite for nonprofits, and they're using Google Drive now. And it's been beneficial, they say, to their alternate work arrangements during the pandemic. And use of e-resources have been increasing, and they've been taking advantage for free trials, and they're adding to their paid subscriptions as well.
Wonderful.
So, all's good.
Very good. Councillor Huntley?
Not really any committee reports to report to. I did want to speak very briefly, though, that I believe the Black Lives Matter rally took place yesterday at the old school, and it went off extremely well attended and very respectful. You know, unfortunately, due to my own scheduling issues, I didn't get a chance to attend, unfortunately. But it sounded like it was a wonderful event.
That's fantastic. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Deputy Mayor Graham?
Not much to report. The Millwood Valley Trails, there has been some recent weed whacking done and some spraying as well. So we thank those providers who help keep the trails clean. But yeah, enjoy them. Remember to take some water and keep your social distance, because it's we don't want to lose you out there.
Very good, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Belch?
Yes, through you, Mayor, Ganaraska is open. They have opened up one toilet facility that can be used. We're taking a break for July and August as far as the committee meeting, the board of directors. So have the summer off, and we'll rejoin in September.
Very good. Excellent. Can a motion then to receive those verbal reports? Councillor Moore, Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. And now we have the additional item. Madam Clerk?
This is just in reference to the special council meeting that we would like to schedule for July the 20th for some planning matters. So if we could just have a motion to add that to our meeting schedule for 2020, and I will ensure that each of you have the Zoom details.
Very good. Okay, motion from Councillor Moore and second by Councillor Belch. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. See you on the 20th. Our next items, general business, there is none. No correspondence for information, correspondence for action. Blue Box transition letter of support for municipalities under 5,000. Deputy Mayor Graham.
Thank you, and through you, Warden. Just being a good neighbor with regards to the county council or the county of Peterborough, I would move to support this letter. Just there are several of our partner municipalities within the county that are below the 5,000 threshold. That's sort of been arbitrarily set by the province, and obviously the importance of recycling with regards to environmental concerns is paramount for municipalities of all shapes and sizes. So I would move to support, even though it doesn't pertain to our specific municipality.
Very good. The neighborly thing to do. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Huntley. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is carried. We'll move now into our bylaws. We have 3 bylaws before us. Bylaw number 2020-34 being a bylaw to appoint members of a committee of adjustment. And bylaw number 2020-35 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement. And bylaw number 2020-36 being a bylaw to provide for the licensing and registration of dogs and for prohibiting or regulating the running at large of dogs. Be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Deputy Mayor Graham, second by Councillor Moore. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. There is no unfinished business, no notices of motion. Confirming bylaw being bylaw number 2020-37, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held July 6, 2020, be read a first, second, third time, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Councillor Belch, seconded by Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion is approved. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Huntley and Deputy Mayor Graham. Madam Clerk, recorded vote.
Councillor Huntley,
Yes.
Councillor Belch,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Graham,
Yes.
Mayor McFadden.
Yes, motion's approved. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay cool.
Thank you.